So, guys, there's a number of splits within the MAGA caucus. Like, there are different factions within MAGA that it's kind of interesting because, I don't know, there's never been any effort whatsoever to reconcile the different factions. It's just like wherever Trump goes is where we're just going to follow meekly, right? Like, these are, we covered this the other day. We did a segment on this, but MAGA genuinely has a beta boy problem. Like, they're all betas. None of them are alphas. None of them actually have a real clear vision and philosophy and ideology. It's just like wherever daddy goes, we'll go, right? And so you've seen this. They're the different factions, right? So you saw this recently with the H-1B visa fight where you had basically like the white nationalist, white supremacist, Nazi faction that were like, no, when we said fuck everybody who's not white, we meant it, including Indians. Fuck the high-skilled immigrants who come here. We don't want them, right? That was one faction. The other faction was like, I guess you could say more normie MAGA, where Trump decided, oh, I like high-skilled immigrants. It's only those low-skilled immigrants I don't like. And they were like, oh, yes, we agree. High-skilled immigrants are great, bro. So that was one split. Another split, as you all know, is basically the tech broligarch authoritarian faction who are super libertarian on most economic issues versus the so-called populist wing of MAGA, which is like, hey, we're super conservative on social issues, but on economic issues, we don't want to cut the social safety net because a lot of our voters rely on that, right? But again, at the end of the day, whichever way Trump goes, where everybody ends up going. So are there really different factions? Like, nominally, there are different factions, but functionally, effectively, there's not. There's where Trump wants to go, and that's it. Or you could say maybe Trump and Elon, where they want to go, and that's it, right? So this is really interesting because Sloppy Steve Bannon, folks, he, for a few weeks, or at least a month, maybe even a little more than that, has kind of been on the warpath a bit against Elon Musk. And their big break happened over that H-1B visa fight, where Elon Musk loves H-1B visas, not because, he believes in egalitarianism and multiculturalism and pluralism and he believes in a rainbow coalition. No, he believes in the H-1B visas because he was literally directly able to exploit workers who come here on that visa and basically make them indentured servants. So he loves that program because he gets to exploit the labor of these immigrants, right? And then you had Steve Bannon came out and he was like, no, fuck you and fuck that visa system. And they are indentured servants. And why are you giving these Indian immigrants jobs over, say, black people and Hispanic people in this country who could do those jobs, right? And so this was their first big blow up. And Steve has now and then taken shots at Elon over time. So now you could say he's issuing a bit of a dire warning here, or that he's kind of dumbstruck by Elon's massive cuts, and so he's going to talk about that. Here we go.
The Budget Committee is trying to get to, I understand they're going to vote it out tonight. Hey, here's all, I want to know how many cuts, and the same with Steve, they're dealing with the fiscal 2026 budget, fine. Show me the $1 trillion in cuts. I don't want a $2 trillion deficit. I want to see it cut in half. How'd you do it?
By the way, he sounds drunk, doesn't he? He sounds drunk to me.
Talking about the $1.5 trillion over 10 years, that's $150 billion a year. Now, I realize it's maybe taken differently, but it's $150 billion a year. It's not going to work. And to back it up, if you got the CR on the 14th, we got to fund the government going forward, or maybe not. But I don't see him shutting down President Trump's government in his first 100 days. It's, how can we possibly have a $2 trillion deficit? Where are the Doge cuts? We need them all. They've had enough time to identify at least the waste, fraud, and abuse in these different organizations. It doesn't have to be perfect, because they'll go through a lot more refinement even after approval. We have to know directionally where we are. And it galls me they're working off Biden's number. I hope it galls the president. I think when the president's fully briefed and fully informed, it'll gall him big league. I think he'll say, what in the hell are we doing here with Biden's numbers? It's an interesting question. I think it's generally confusion and mayhem with Capitol Hill, but hey, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there's some logic here. Maybe they're making some...
He is definitely drunk. They're doing the, play him out music. I guess they're trying to go to a break, and they're doing the play him out shit, and he's just ignoring it and stumbling and bumbling through.
Progress on this. But until we see the math, and I mean hundreds of billions of dollars of cuts, hundreds of billions of dollars of cuts, and stop whining about entitlements, get into that discretionary spending, get into the Pentagon, Get into Medicaid. Medicaid, you got to be careful because a lot of MAGAs on Medicaid. I'm telling you, if you don't think so, you are dead wrong. Medicaid's going to be a complicated one. Just can't take a Medex to it, although I would love to.
Oh my God. This is perfect because this shows you how fake the different factions are within MAGA. That ultimately, at the end of the day, they all fall in line, do what Trump wants to do what Elon wants to do, and do what Project 2025 wants. One more time. Listen very closely to what he's saying. This is actually really interesting.
Maybe they're making some progress on this. But until we see the math, and I mean hundreds of billions of dollars of cuts, hundreds of billions of dollars of cuts, and stop whining about entitlements, get into that discretionary spending, get into the Pentagon, get into Medicaid. Medicaid, you got to be careful because a lot of MAGAs on Medicaid. I'm telling you, if you don't think so, you are dead wrong. Medicaid's going to be a complicated one. Just can't take a Medex to it, although I would love to.
Here's your roaring populist, y'all. Come get your right-wing populist. Bro, they're coming for... They got to be careful going after Medicaid because a lot of MAGA are on Medicaid, but also it's going to be complicated, but I would like to take a Medex to it, but you can't just take the Medex to it. Oh my God. This is so embarrassing. This is so embarrassing. Checkmate. Game, set, match, bitch. Every so-called populist right person is just completely and utterly full of shit. And this is the classic. You can't even come out and say unequivocally, hey, 0 cuts to Medicaid. There should be no cuts to Medicaid. Medicaid is literally healthcare for low-income people and disabled people. You can't say, hey, hands off that, bro. Hands off that. Really? Really? It just shows it's all fake. It's all fucking fake virtue signaling whenever he tries to pretend. Like every now and then he'll come out and say, yeah, I don't know, we should raise taxes on corporations, I guess. And some people fall for the head fake and they're like, oh, look at him, a roaring populist. At the end of the day, and here's how you know Steve Bannon is a fraud. I mean, he literally committed fraud, so that's one reason. He literally committed fraud with the build the wall thing. He tried to privately crowdfund a border wall by shaking down MAGA, and then him and somebody else stole the fucking money. Pleaded guilty to that. I think didn't Trump pardon him? Oh, I guess there were some federal charges, but then also state charges. Trump can't pardon the state one, but federal, I guess he could. Anyway, that's how you know he's a fraud. But another reason you know he's a fraud, when they had that H-1B visa fight, do you remember how this went down? Sloppy Steve was going after Elon nonstop over the H-1B thing. And then Trump comes out and goes, I agree completely with Elon, 100%. Elon is right. And then instead of Steve Bannon going, oh, well then fuck Donald Trump too. You're a fraud. You're a con artist. I thought we were MAGA. I thought we were America first. And now you're saying here, bring in a whole bunch of Indian immigrants because they help, you can exploit them and they help you guys make profit? No, fuck that. Instead of doing that, what did he do? As soon as Trump came out and agreed with Elon, here's what Steve Bannon did. I can disagree with Elon, but I can't disagree with Trump. And look, probably a lot of that has to do with Trump did pardon him. It's when he got caught brazenly committing crimes. And so I guess he feels like loyal to him no matter what. But here he is. He's like kind of warning them that these Doge cuts, these illegal, unconstitutional Doge cuts where they're destroying the social safety net. He's like, yeah, this might backfire. But this is like the most tepid criticism I've ever heard. He's a lot of MAGAs on Medicaid, and don't take the Medex to it. It's kind of complicated, although I'd like to take the Medex to it. Guys, at the end of the day, this is what right-wing ideology boils down to. It just is. It just is. As a general rule, they are authoritarian on social issues, right? They want to have no abortion whatsoever. They want to have state-enforced Christianity on everybody. And, we don't even need to go down through the list. They don't want legal weed, conservative on social issues. But then on economic issues, no matter how much they may virtue signal and pretend oh, we're for the common man, we're for the working man, bro. We're actually left on economic issues. When push comes to shove, this is where they end up. Oh, maybe you should not fully destroy all of Medicaid, but there's a lot of MAGA on Medicaid, but it's actually very complicated, and I'd like to take a Medex to it, but maybe it's not the best idea to take a Medex to it. This is where they end up. This is where they end up. And so, what do you see? You see Elon Musk crusading through every federal government agency, destroying the... Has Steve Bannon said anything about Elon Musk destroying the anti-scam police, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, that returned $20 billion to defrauded Americans? Elon destroying that agency and then Donald Trump cheering it on and agreeing with it? How about destroying the Department of Education? Has Sloppy Steve, Mr. Right-Wing Populist, said anything about that? Has he? Has he reacted to the fact that the Republicans released a budget where they cut hundreds of billions of dollars from Medicaid, and that Trump is in favor of this, just like Elon Musk is in favor of it? It's like, at the end of the day, they actually agree. Destroy the regulatory state, destroy the administrative state, and give Trump full unitary executive power, which means there are no checks and balances. Fuck the judiciary. Fuck the legislative branch. You're above the courts. You are basically a dictator. You are basically a fascist dictator. That is actually what he believes in, right? And any sort of like, oh, but maybe don't destroy all of Medicaid. Like, really? That's your fucking roaring populist reaction to the destruction of every decent government program that we have? This is your reaction? But look, there are a lot of people in MAGA on Medicaid. Look, you're already starting to see these people. You're already starting to see, what was it? There was a farmer who got money through the IRA, the Inflation Reduction Act. He made upgrades to his farm because he knew contractually he was about to get the funds from the IRA. So he did the upgrades, and then Trump froze the IRA funds, and now he's like, I'm going to lose my farm because of Trump. You're seeing a lot of these people now. The people, it was heartbreaking. The messages sent directly to Trump from people who voted for him, and they have a government position, and they're like, hey, I've been a great employee for a decade, and I was just in my probationary period before taking a new job, and you just fired me, but I know you didn't mean to, because I know you're trying to do what's right by the country, and you got to do what's right by us now and hire me back. Like, I believed in you, sir. It's like, oh my God, bro. It's so sad. It's so pathetic. But look, the point is this. People will pretend like there are different factions of MAGA, and nominally there are. But there's a difference between nominally and effectively. Effectively, there are no different factions of MAGA. Trump is going to go where Elon wants him to go, and Steve Bannon might disagree around the edges, but at the end of the day, when Trump actually does these negative things that Bannon admits are negative, he's going to tuck his tail between his legs and shut the fuck up about it, or like give the most petty push, the tiniest pushback imaginable. And then when Trump does it, he'll continue to shut up about it. Here's the thing. These guys fancy themselves revolutionaries. They're not. They're counter-revolutionaries, right? Like, they are, it's the Empire Strikes Back. It's the establishment and the elites getting a stronger grasp on power. They frame it like it's the opposite. They frame it like they're the crusading outsiders doing a rebellion and a revolution for the people. It's like, no, nobody has ever been more pro-establishment than Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Nobody has ever been more elitist than Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And everything they're doing here is going to hurt the regular person and help out the robber baron class, right? And this is the most he can bring himself to push back. Like the tepid, tiny warning of like, yeah, I'd like to take a meat axe to Medicaid, but you can't really. It's kind of complicated because a lot of MAGA are on it and stuff, bro. Thank you. Go back to sleep, Steve. Or I love it when he yells at Elon Musk and has a feud with Elon, but then in the next breath, Trump agrees with Elon and he doesn't criticize Trump at all. It's a cult. Call it what it is. It's a fascist cult. That's what it is. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.